To understand how an engine works, we first need to look at what an engine actually does. An engine takes air and fuel, mixes those two together, and then gets them to explode. What we get is rotational force, which drives our car forward, and exhaust gases, which leave our car through the exhaust. To understand how an engine creates rotational force from an explosion, we need to look at the most important parts of an engine. You can divide an engine into two main parts, the top end and the bottom end. Let's start off with the bottom end, as it houses the most important and the biggest parts of the engine. The first part the bottom end houses is the engine block itself. The engine block contains all other components and acts as closed space where the explosion can happen. Inside the engine block we have holes called cylinders. In those cylinders there are pistons. The pistons move up and down. To create a tight seal there are piston rings that extend the piston to the exact amount of thickness needed to create a tight seal between a piston and a cylinder. Now, the up and down motion of the cylinder isn't really the rotational force we are looking for. To create this rotational force, the piston is connected with the crankshaft through the connecting rod. The connecting rod connects up to the bottom of the piston and up to an off-center point on the crankshaft, therefore creating a rotational force at the end of the crankshaft which we can use to drive the car. That's basically it for the bottom half of the engine. Seems pretty simple, but of course it's a little bit more complex than that. We have the oil pan, which mounts up to the bottom side of the engine block and contains most of the oil in the engine. The oil is used to lubricate every part in the engine so it can live longer and work efficiently. Also, the engine block itself has holes cut into it for better cooling. There's water running through those holes and therefore through the whole engine, cooling the engine at all times. But that's really it for the bottom half. Now let's look at the top end of the engine. The top end of the engine houses the valves. The job of the valves is to open and close to let air in or exhaust gases out. So in most modern cars there are 4 valves per cylinder. 2 valves are the inlet valves, which let air in, and 2 valves are the exhaust valves, which let exhaust gases out of the engine. To control when these valves are open or closed, there's the camshaft. The camshaft is directly connected to the crankshaft via a chain or a belt. This allows the camshaft to be timed correctly to open the valves at the right time. The last part we can find in the top end of the engine are the spark plugs. As the name might suggest, the spark plug is there to create a spark which ignites the air-fuel mixture inside of the engine, causing it to explode. All these parts work together in a fluent motion. Most modern cars house an engine with a 4-stroke design. A 4-stroke design means there are 4 main strokes or situations in which the engine can be. The first stroke is the intake stroke, in which the intake valves are opened and the cylinder moves down, sucking in an air-fuel mixture. The next stroke is the compression stroke. All valves are closed and the cylinder moves up, compressing the air-fuel mixture above the piston. Now, right before the piston reaches top dead center, the spark plug ignites the air-fuel mixture, causing it to explode, causing the piston to be pressed down. Now to the last stroke, which is the exhaust stroke. The exhaust valves open and the piston moves up again, forcing all the exhaust gases out of the engine. And this is how your engine works.